It's time to pick a side. The Border War is on the air with BG and 10. All right, welcome into the Border War for May the 21st, coming at you live on a Monday. If you're not catching this live, it was live when I said that. If you listen to it later, it's Monday where we are. Maybe it's Tuesday or Wednesday where you are. As long as you're listening, though, we're fine.
Like, it might be Tuesday based on some of our audience locations, but I don't think it can be Wednesday.
Well, I meant they could be listening to it 2 days later.
But today is Monday.
All right, we'd like to thank listeners in Clover, South Carolina, Thornwood, New York, and Christchurch, New Zealand.
Hey, mate.
Is that what they sound like?
Pretty sure.
Do it again.
Hey, mate.
Do me a favor. At some point during today's show, okay, when you're talking semi-seriously about a sport topic, I would like you to say one sentence in that accent and then, not missing a beat, move right back into your regular voice, and I'm not going to even react to it. We're just going to keep going.
How did it sound? Does it sound New Zealandish?
Good day, so.
Mate.
That's more. I think that's more Australia, but they're close to each other.
Right,
they're close to each other.
Anyway,
so can you do it? Can you do that for me?
Maybe.
Just at some point during the show.
Maybe. I'll try.
All right. So you can follow us on Twitter at The Border War. You can follow me at BG_Border War, and TanMan is at TanMan3264. You can email us at Carolina Border War. That's at gmail.com. Like and download us through the Spreaker app. We can also be found on YouTube. Be sure to like and share the Border War on Facebook. All right, we're going to get started with the NBA in the playoffs. So, TanMan, we'll take it from the East standpoint and then the West standpoint. Obviously, Game 3 is tonight between Cleveland and Boston.
Game 4.
I'm sorry, Game 4. Do you think... I was thinking about 2 and 1, and that means 3, but I forgot this would be the next game. I wasn't being inclusive in my math. The unnamed game that hasn't counted yet.
Well, you clearly don't know all the maths.
I do not know all the maths. I do have stylish shoes, however. So, is this a must-win for Boston, do you think?
It feels like it to me. The Celtics, they dominated Game 1 and Game 2 at home. They go to Cleveland for Game 3, and they just didn't look the same to me. During the regular season, Boston is one of the best road teams that there was in the league, and I don't know if it was pressure. I don't know if Cleveland ramped things up, but they definitely looked a little off their game the other night.
Yeah, well, I've watched a lot of old college football games back on from the 80s and 90s, back in classic football channels when I actually had channels. And I've seen a lot of games where a team that's really not supposed to be the one that wins gets up by 2 touchdowns midway through the second quarter. And there's that moment in the game where you realize we need to put them away or we're going to lose. And so that's how this feels. It feels like if you let Cleveland hang around,
well, that's what it was,
and even this thing up, no, that's a bad idea.
Well, and I think that's a lot of what it was. To beat LeBron and to beat the Cavaliers, you're not gonna, you're not just gonna kind of punch them around because you're gonna get caught like Indiana did in the first round. You're not gonna do enough to put them away.
And Indiana is the perfect example here because they had moments where they could have ended that series and they just could never quite do it.
Well, they beat Cleveland 5 times in that series and only got credit for 3 wins. I mean, you have got to put your foot on the throat of the Cavs and LeBron James. You cannot give him any life, any belief. And coming back home, he basically put those guys on his back. The role players typically play better at home than they do on the road. And, Boston was a little stunned right from the get-go, and they never could recover. Now, Game 4 tonight, to me, is going to tell you, everything you need to know about whether or not Boston has
because
what it
one
takes.
game isn't momentum.
If Cleveland wins tonight and ties this thing back up, then
nobody thought that. Okay, let's say when Boston was up 2-0, nobody thought, oh, they're going to sweep them.
No,
I mean the most outlandish people out there were saying they're going to take it in 5. Okay, so that next game going to Cleveland, it almost felt like a foregone conclusion that they were going to win that third game. But you're right. This is the one where do you respond, or do you make this a 3-game series?
Well, I agree with you. I think it was probably always going to be Cleveland winning Game 3, but the way they won it, where they just imposed their will on Boston,
true,
is kind of a different story. It's like I said, Game 4. If Boston comes out, to me, if they want to win the series, they've got to win this. They've got to win tonight. They've got to go up 3-1, because then I think you could see some of Cleveland's role players. I think they go back to Boston for Game 5, where they've been very good at home. Then you can see maybe some of Cleveland's role players kind of checking out. Maybe LeBron James checks out. I mean, that's happened before. That wouldn't be this novelty thing.
And the thing about LeBron too is that one really doesn't know where his head is. How much, if they lose tonight and they're down 3-1 to a team that plays equal to them on most nights, we don't know in his mind what his chances of coming back to Cleveland next year are, or to going out west or staying in the East.
That's a whole different conversation.
But if you don't think it's influencing him, I mean, when you get down 3-1, I think that's where you would find out how much that kind of thing is on his mind.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But we were in this same spot. You brought it up with your Pacers. And correct me if I'm wrong. My memory's a little fuzzy on actual numbers, but they were up 2-1. And when that game 4 went to Cleveland and it was tied at 2-2, I think we had a show that next day, and you and I both said, it's over. That's it.
It sounds right.
It's not going to happen now.
No, I know. Like I said, you've got to, number one, you want to give yourself the maximum number of opportunities to close out Cleveland, to send LeBron James home. Being up 3-1 gives you 3 opportunities to do that. But again, the biggest thing is, to me, Cleveland is mentally weak. To me, they're not a mentally strong team. I don't think they're a physically strong team.
Right.
LeBron James is. But if you put Tristan Thompson down 3-1 and J.R. Smith down 3, Kyle Korver down 3-1,
right,
going back to Boston, yeah, I think that could be it. But if you give them life and let them breathe life into that, then I think the
flip side of the coin with LeBron is, where are those guys down 3-1 in regards to LeBron? I mean, why? I don't know. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. And I mean, again, one of my big pet peeves is someone doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So let me caution myself. And that's me acting like I know anything about what's going on in that locker room. All I can promise you is that something is going on in that locker room. Now, it could be that he has told them, look, this is what I'm planning on doing. I doubt it. But there could be people in that locker room that know what LeBron's mind is.
Nah.
Or there could be people like me and you that are like, man, I'm not sure where this is all going. And look, that's the kind of thing that...
Well, like I said, the run in Cleveland ended with them getting bounced unceremoniously from the playoffs, and him being very frustrated with the team around him. Like now, the run in Miami ended with San Antonio spanking them in 5 games.
Right.
LeBron really not even there, it didn't seem like, and grew frustrated with the team that's around him. This feels a lot like those last 2 scenarios to me. I think
I know what you're
a better
saying.
basketball team than they are. I think he's frustrated with what's around him. But like I said, yeah, that's you could spend a whole show discussing what you think LeBron James will do this summer. And I'm sure we will at some point this summer.
Yeah, well, and like you've said, man, he's the linchpin of the whole league. Everything in free agency for the next 3 years probably revolves around what LeBron plans to do in July this year.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the nature of the beast. It could also be that this whole bit of drama in the East, at least for right now, doesn't even matter because there appears to still be a juggernaut out west.
The
Golden State absolutely puts it to.
The rumor of the Warriors' demise was a little exaggerated, wouldn't you think? What did they win by last night? 41 points?
Yeah.
Listen to me. Houston cannot beat Golden State in a series. It will not happen. Period.
Let me tell you, and I suspect you know where I'm going with this, but there's only one team in the entire NBA capable of beating Golden State in a series. That's Golden State.
I was going to say, I can't wait to hear who this
That's
was.
Golden State. If they are on their game, they're as close to unbeatable as I've seen a team in the past 20 years.
Wow.
They have so many scoring options, and their ball movement, and their unselfishness, and yes, their defense. They
Look, in game one, I believe Houston is a fantastic basketball team. They won 61 games, whatever it was this year. They're terrific. James Harden is probably going to win the MVP.
Right.
Chris Paul is unbelievable. Clint Capella is the name that you don't know that you ought to know.
Right.
They've got good role players. But in game one, if you go back and watch, it was a lot of stand around, dribble, jack up a shot with 4 seconds left on the shot clock. They didn't move Golden State around at all on defense. They were basically allowed to stand in place and defend Houston. And they won the ball game, even with Steph Curry struggling. In game two, Houston actually played the game of basketball like it should be played. They passed the ball around. They got teammates open shots. And, they won. They went right at Steph Curry, made him defend the ball, wore him out a little bit. They get the win. Last night, when Steph Curry gets heated back up, and you mentioned it, with all the other offensive weapons that they have, they didn't stand a chance, man. I mean, they got run out of Oracle last night.
Well, like I said,
how do they put this behind them? Can they?
I don't know.
41 points. That's a hard one to get past.
And of course, D'Antoni comes out today and says all the pressure is on Golden State. There's no pressure on Golden State. I get what he's.
No, Mike.
I get where he's coming from because he's saying, look, we've never won it. They're the ones. They're the quote unquote defending champion. Well, not quote unquote. They're the defending champions. Golden State reminds me of what I thought the UConn women's team was this year and last year, even though they didn't end up winning either of those two titles. And that's just that if they show up and do their thing, man, I don't know that there's anything you can do. I just, think about it. We've been talking about Golden State here for 8 minutes, and we haven't even mentioned Kevin Durant, who's, I don't know, I mean, he's the second best player in basketball. I mean, people want to say LeBron's not. They're wrong. LeBron's the best.
Yeah.
His team's not. But KD is a supremely gifted scorer of the basketball. And when Steph Curry is on his game and he's shooting 40-foot jumpers at 51%, man, there's nothing you can do.
Well, that's his house, as he screamed and was scolded
you left out a couple of
by
words.
his mother. Look, we have gone through this thing in our heads where we want to believe that someone can beat Golden State.
Sort of like you in the Kennedy assassination.
I know.
You just desperately want to believe something else happened. But you're right, people, because it's a boring league right now.
Well, I don't think it's a boring league.
Well, listen,
the first round of the playoffs is the best first round of the playoffs we've had in 10 years, probably. Now, the second round, I'm
going to quote some Macbeth to you. That's the first on the show. Shakespeare. Okay, I can't remember the exact quote. It's something like, no, shut up, man. Full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That's what the first round of the playoffs were. That's what all the free agency was. Yes, it's fun. But at the end of the day,
it doesn't make the league boring.
There's a huge problem, though. If Golden State, man,
it doesn't make it boring, though. That's the thing. It's not.
It depends on what your emphasis is. I want to know that I don't know who's going to win it all, and I've been screaming that Golden State was going to win it all since July. I don't want to be right about that.
Golden State's going to win it all since July of 2016. That doesn't make it boring.
Boring-ish. Sure, it does.
No.
Somewhat boring.
No. But like I said, we've tried to create this scenario in our heads where...
Because we don't want it to be boring.
Where we want there to be this uber amount of drama. And Charles Barkley said it the other day. He said, we're trying to sell this product, and we already know what's going to happen. So, look,
yeah, no, you're right. But that's what I'm saying.
But it doesn't make it boring.
Well,
though,
okay,
man.
maybe that's the wrong
word. The entertainment is in the journey
of how
you get there. But you're going to tune in because there's always a chance. There's always a chance Maryland, Baltimore County can beat Virginia, and you're going to tune in because of that. Now it's a little different in the NBA because you get a series.
Lot different.
Well, you get a series as opposed to one game, but you're going to tune in anyway.
But it's sort of like, spoiler alert, right? When you're waiting to see the movie you've been waiting for 2 years to come out, and somebody tells you what happens at the end. This is like that. Only we know what's going to happen in the end, and it does. It makes the journey less interesting.
Movie like Office Space.
Office Space is an amazing. I
had to tell someone today that I've never seen Office Space, and I was asked about which rock I lived up under.
Well, I would make the same argument with Tombstone, but I think Office Space is apropos also. You and I should watch You would like Office Space. You know who wrote the screenplay?
No.
Mike Judge, the guy that did King of the Hill.
I love King of the Hill.
Mike Judge is actually in the movie. He plays a tchotchkes manager, which is sort of like a TGI Fridays type
I was
play.
Going to say, what's tchotchkes?
It's a made-up restaurant, but you'll recognize it as Applebee's, and it just... You need to watch it. It's really funny.
Well...
So
one guy who probably has not seen Office Space or Tombstone for that matter, because he's from Slovenia and he's only like 19, Luka Doncic. He's one of the top players. He's going to be one of the top players selected in this draft. It's upcoming. And he has said, number one, he's not sure if he's going to come over at all to the NBA next year. But two, a lot of folks are kind of starting to think that this is a play to avoid Sacramento, who's got the second pick, and Atlanta with the third pick. BG, what are your thoughts on these guys trying to manipulate where they go in the draft?
There was a time, maybe not so long ago, when I would have sort of been offended by that. You can go all the way back to John Elway with this stuff, right? I mean, that's the first prominent player in any sport I can think of who had an ace in his pocket, right? He had leverage.
He could have just played baseball.
It wasn't just that the Yankees wanted him. They wanted him bad. I mean, he was going to be a first-round draft pick, or he was a first-round draft pick. So if you've got the cards to lay on the table, man, it is not hurting me any. And if you don't have the cards to look on the table and you try some junk like this, you just end up looking stupid. All right? If you really don't have it going on where you've got, if it ends up costing you money to not come into the draft, then that's on you. But let's quit pretending that, I mean, look, with the world, social media has been around now for a good decade, right? Marketing your brand. None of this is new anymore. It shouldn't shock anybody. So I think it's a self-regulating situation. There are certain players who can do it, who can get by with it, and yes, it's worth it for them. And there are certain players who are going to try it, and it's going to blow up in their face. So I think it takes care of itself. I don't have a problem with it.
I think that this is nonsense. You see it sometimes in the NFL.
You don't want to play for the Sacramento Kings either.
You see it sometimes in the NFL. I think the last really prominent one, I guess, would have to be Eli Manning, not wanting to go to San Diego. You see it all the time in baseball, where guys will get drafted 3 and 4 times. Either they didn't like the situation where they ended up, or they didn't like the city, or they didn't like the draft position, or whatever. But in basketball, the theory behind it is that he's a kid who likes the big city. He likes the big city life, everything that goes along with it. He's 19 years old. I don't blame him. But if anything, to me, the NBA has shown they can make a star out of anybody in any city. They are leading the main television demographic, that 18 to 36-year-old demographic. The NBA is killing the NFL, killing Major League Baseball.
Oh, there's no question.
I think this kid is going to be a superstar. He's not going to be a good player. I think Luka Doncic is going to be a superstar. We can get on into this on another show, but I think...
So if all that's true, then don't you think it's in his own best interest to tailor where he goes? If he can?
Look, I think Phoenix's new coach coached the Slovenian national team, so he coached him. He's familiar with him. They've got the top pick. I think it's going to come down to them or Aiden. I don't know if he's trying to force his way into Phoenix, or if he's trying to fall back to, I think Dallas has 5.
My take on what I
think
read
this kid's
was
going to be a
that he wants to go
superstar
to Phoenix. I think you're right there.
I think the kid's going to be a superstar, and what do you put him in? Sacramento, who I think's got a lot of good young pieces. Atlanta's a mess right now, but wherever you put him, I think Luka Doncic is the real deal, man. And I hate the idea of these guys trying to manipulate their way around the league when you haven't played a minute in the... Look, man, throw your name in the hat and let the chips fall where they may.
I get your mentality. I get what you're saying, but I just think that's a little bit of an old school way of thinking these days.
Look, man, all these teams at the top of the NBA draft stink. They all stink.
You're right.
So what's the difference?
You're right.
They all stink.
Well, some of them stink, but have a plan. Some of them have terrible front offices, and they're going to always stink.
It's the same team, man. They all stink. I think it's a terrible idea. Stop it, man. If you land in Sacramento, you land in Atlanta, go with it, man. Because he's going to be fantastic.
If the Sacramento Kings called me right now and told me to come on out, I would tell them no.
You're a bold-faced liar.
I would not wear that purple and silver getup.
Well,
I don't even know where Sacramento is. I've heard it's the capital of California, so I guess it's in California. I don't want to play there. My talents are not that easily bought, sir.
They've got good colors.
They have terrible colors.
You're a moron.
Let's talk baseball.
BG, you Gamecocks. Man, I threw dirt on them. They were done. They were finished. Finito.
I didn't throw dirt on them, but I did have my shovel in my hand.
You lose to Presbyterian. It is over for the Gamecocks, man. They have been on fire. I think they've won
They've won 5 straight
SEC
series
since
they've lost 4 baseball games since that day.
Amazing, man. Are those guys, could they be a potential sleep? Because every year in the NCAA tournament, we see somebody come out of nowhere and make a run to a super regional or a college World Series. In the case of Fresno State a few years ago, they said Fresno State was the equivalent of a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they won the whole thing. BG, are the Gamecocks a sleeper this year?
I don't even know that sleeper is the right word anymore. This is not just any baseball program. This is a team or a program that's shown it can win at the highest level before. The last time they won 5 straight SEC series, they won the College World Series. That was 2012. And they've been winning series against some of the better teams.
Well, I say
these were not.
You swept LSU, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Texas A&M.
All of these are ranked teams.
I mean, that's as impressive of a finish to a season as you're going to find.
And you know how important mojo and what did I say over and over early in the season when they were struggling?
I don't know. I quit listening to you.
Okay, well, get that off the screen. Dear Lord, I'm trying to tell you. You're going to make me throw up. What is all the orange?
Make your point, man.
I told you, man, that I thought they had talent, but that Holbrook hangover was sticking around, and that at some point this year that I was waiting on Kingston to give them their confidence back, get them playing loose and with some swagger. I didn't know if it would happen, so I'm not trying to say that I've got some insight that others don't have, but it's pretty evident that after they lost to PC that was such a terrible loss that this pretty talented team just got fed up. I'll say it. I think got a little angry with themselves and started playing baseball.
Well, go back and look at The last 2 games against Arkansas down in Fayetteville, you guys got shut out. You lose to PC, and I think it just proves your point. LSU 11-0, 11-4, 8-6. The Bats woke up. You guys started winning some series. You go down to Ole Miss, 13-11. I mean, whatever buttons he pushed down there after that PC loss, he needs to remember that, I guess.
And a real quick shout out to the South Carolina women's softball team who won their Columbia Regional in dramatic fashion this weekend, and they're going to a super regional now.
They're going out to Tempe, or is Ole Miss?
They're going out to Tempe.
Out to Tempe. Okay.
Do you think anyone is raising their hand wanting South Carolina as the 2 seed at their house come playoff time right now?
I'd say probably.
This is probably the one team in the country nobody wants to play right now.
A couple teams that are not going to be 2 seeds. They're going to host their own regional. They're going to probably host a super regional if they advance that far. The winner of the Atlantic Division in the ACC, the Clemson Tigers.
And the reason Clemson isn't getting as much press right now is because they've been doing what South Carolina's been doing all season long.
Them and North Carolina, winners of the Coastal Division. So those 2 will head up to the ACC tournament at BG. Could this be the year that North Carolina and Clemson both have not unfamiliar with heading out to Omaha, but it seems like every time they get out there, they kind of stub their toe or they run into a hot pitcher. Could this be the year that the Tar Heels or the Tigers, either one, get out there and make a run?
Well, I mean, from Clemson's standpoint, it needs to be. I mean, they've had good seasons under Monty Lee since he got there, but they haven't really done anything in the playoffs with this team because Clemson's not going to be as good next year. They're not. No. They're losing a lot of leadership and offensive power. So they need to capitalize on this. This is that year, and so far they've looked exactly like what you expect an Omaha team to look like. But as we both know, in baseball, things can turn south in a hurry. You lose one game and end up in that loser's bracket, and you're fighting an uphill battle. As for North Carolina, I think there's a little less pressure on them. I think these are both teams, however, that if they're not at least in Omaha, it's a disappointing season. And that's a high mark to set, but that's where these 2 teams are.
I agree. Both of these 2 teams, I think...
and once you're in Omaha, man, I don't care what anybody says. It's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot, but you have to get there if you're Clemson and North Carolina.
Well, I guess the thing that concerns me a little about the Tar Heels, they're 23-6 at home, but just 12-10 away from Boshamer Stadium. Well, from here on out, the biggest games are going to be away from Boshamer Stadium. You get the ACC tournament, of course, the College World Series, but both them and Clemson, you look at the overall record and it's impressive, but how much more impressive could it have been? Each one of them seemed like they each had 2, I guess, bad weekends where they lost 4 out of 5 games. Otherwise,
right.
Otherwise these teams have won pretty much almost every time.
You can explain a lot of stuff away every year by saying that's baseball, but it is. But I really think the College World Series, and I'm not just saying this because we've won it, but it is just so easy to get out there and lose. But obviously, we're way ahead of ourselves.
I think it's a toss-up between that and the NCAA basketball tournament as to what is the hardest thing in sports to win.
It's definitely one of those two.
It's one of those 2. I'm just a little gun shy, man. They're gonna have to make a believer out of me. I've watched North Carolina go out there and they've broken my heart before. Quick rundown of the SEC tournament. This starts tomorrow, right?
It does start tomorrow, I believe, yep.
The Gamecocks, they will face off against Missouri, and it's scheduled for a 9 p.m. start.
A team they just beat in a series, a pretty nasty, hard-fought series last weekend, but I don't know if that factors in or not.
Well, that 9 p.m. start will almost undoubtedly be like 11:30 because it always is.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to be on time.
They win, then they get into the double elimination part where they'll face Arkansas in their first game, Florida, the top team in the country, also in their half. The
Does
ACC.
that not just show you how loaded SEC is in baseball right now? Though
Oh.
we're ranked 22nd in the country, and we're not even in the elimination bracket yet.
Well, you guys do it much better. I've always hated how the ACC does. The ACC does the pool play.
Right.
The Tar Heels are the top seed, of course. They're in there with Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh in their pool, so they should come out.
One would think.
Their winner will get the winner of Pool D with Duke, Louisville, and Wake Forest. So we'll see where that goes this weekend. Maybe a Tigers-Tar Heels matchup on Sunday afternoon for the championship.
The projections that I've seen as far as the NCAA tournament, though, has a possibility for all three of these teams to make it to Omaha. Which
That would be fantastic.
Be flipping awesome. I mean, like I
didn't they all three go a few years ago? Like the first time you guys won the championship, maybe.
I don't recall North Carolina being there.
I can't remember. They win a bunch in like a window of time, and
right.
I couldn't remember if that was one of them or not.
I want to say it was just prior to our window, so I think we sort of missed each other there.
Okay.
Anyway,
well. Windows windows seem to have been opened down in Atlanta.
Wow.
I was way off. I think I almost said a couple weeks ago. I said I don't know that they're going to hit a bad skid somewhere.
Your thumbs up or thumbs down 3 weeks ago, Will, would the Braves be above 500 at the end of May?
Maybe one of them down there listened, and I lit the fire.
I don't think it's a maybe. We know they listen.
But Braves are on fire, BG.
They are, and again, it's the same thing I said 3 weeks ago, but, man, it's the youth that's doing it. I mean, Freddie Freeman's playing good baseball, man. He's not carrying this team. Freddie Freeman is riding. He's riding on the coattails of the young guys.
Freddie's hanging out, man.
And he's playing good baseball, but you look, the stat that really impresses me is that they've played a pretty hard schedule, and they've played the majority of their games on the road. The schedule actually softens up for them later on in the summer. This was supposed to be one of the segments of the schedule. They've played a lot of games versus the Mets already, a lot of games versus the Phillies already, teams that a lot of people thought would finish ahead of them in the division.
Right.
And they've dominated both of those teams. They've played a lot of games against the Cubs. I think they've won two series against them already. The only thing that saved the Cubs so far is that occasionally a game gets rained out when they play the Braves. I think it's happened twice
now
already. But
well, look,
the word that I keep seeing on Twitter in regards to this team is fun. They're a fun team to watch, and I can't remember the last time the Braves had a fun team. Man, think back to 5 years ago when they were still semi-competitive. They were old. They were old.
Oh, yeah.
And you felt like, okay, we're playing all right, but this isn't going anywhere. Well, man, with this team, I don't know that it's going anywhere this season. We'll talk about it, but man, if you're a Braves fan, you got to love the future.
The power rankings on ESPN to start the year had Atlanta at 26. It mentions how at the start of June last year, they're 11 and a half games out of first place. To start the year, they were 26. You know where they are now, BG?
I'm going to go with 2.
Close. They are 4. ESPN's got them 4th, just behind the Yankees, Red Sox, and the defending World Series champion Houston Astros. You think things have changed a little bit?
Slightly.
The impression of the Braves may have swung the other way.
But that puts them number 1 in the NL.
They are number 1 in the National League. Chicago is 5. And then you get Washington, 2 division rivals, Washington and Philadelphia.
And I mean, let's be honest,
at 6 and 7.
The power rankings in this regard are a little misnomery because that's not a word. In the NFL, you have a lot of interdivisional play, but who cares if you're the Braves?
You don't know all the Englishes either.
If you're the Braves, who cares about all 3 of those teams?
Those teams don't matter.
You only have to play one of them in the World Series if it came down to that.
No, look, it says they're leading the National League in runs per game, which is something that we said would be a huge question mark to begin the year. Where are the runs, where are the hits going to come from?
Well, it turns out they're all over the place. This team is hitting lights out.
Yeah, they're hitting runs, they're scoring runs, they're not striking out. BG, I'm going to call it now. I think the Braves are in it for the long. I've done a complete 180. I almost said 360, but I could see it on your face. I could see it on your face. I've done a complete 180 on this team, BG. This team is for real. I said it weeks ago that they'd be playing meaningful games in September. And meaningful games in September is kind of hedging my bets because that could mean anything. I'm saying it now on May the 21st or whatever today's date is. The Atlanta Braves are a serious contender, and if you're not taking them serious, they're going to jump up and bite you because these guys are for real.
Well, that sounded a lot like a pro wrestling promo. I mean, I think that's a compliment on my part, actually. I love your passion there, man.
I'm very passionate.
That brought me back to Mid-Atlantic Wrestling and Bob Caudle, circled 1983. I've been watching a lot of that. I think we should talk about that this summer, but we'll get into that maybe then. The Braves, look, baseball is a game of confidence, and I just talked about it with the South Carolina Gamecocks. When you have a team that thinks they can beat anybody, don't tell them they can't, because all they have to do is, this team right now is dangerous.
This team reminds me of the 03 Marlins.
That makes sense.
Where you had, you had some experience. You had, I think Pudge Rodriguez is on that team, but you also had a lot of youth. A young Miguel Cabrera, a young Josh Beckett. Mike Lowell was on that team.
Levon Hernandez was on that team.
He wasn't on the 03 team, was he?
Was he not?
He was on the 97 team. I'm talking about the one that beat the Yankees in the series of 6 games.
Right. The second one they bought.
The second one they bought. I can remember. I can remember having a conversation with guys I work with. I said, we kind of all took bets before betting was legal, and took a team in the playoffs. And I took the Marlins. I said, this team is just young enough that they don't know that they're not supposed to be doing that.
Right.
And I think this Braves team reminds me a lot of that. Man, these guys are just young. They don't know that they're not supposed to be ahead of the Nationals right now.
And let's be honest, this shouldn't be a complete surprise. We're all just so cynical. But how long have we been hearing?
It's coming.
This Braves,
help is coming. Help is coming.
Loaded, man.
Yep.
It's on its way, and guess what?
It's here. It's here. All right, BG, let's head over. We got a few minutes now. We got some a topic that I think is going to...
I'm going thumbs down on everything. I don't even know what the topics are yet.
That's what you are. You're a thumbs down kind of guy.
You're right. With awesome shoes.
What are those?
Shoes? They're things that you wear on your feet. You're being trendy.
I'm always trendy. I know all the trends. It's like I know all the maths. All right. BG, I'm sure you've seen it. Your boy.
Somewhere, there's a kid who has no idea that he's being talked about. Go ahead.
Your boy, Johnny Football, is back on a professional football field, drawing a paycheck. Only this time, it's for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. BG, thumbs up or thumbs down on Johnny Manziel resurrecting his career in the CFL?
Thumbs way up. This is a smart move by Johnny Football. It shows me that he's grown up a little bit, and he didn't try to get into an NFL camp. He didn't continue to push this stubborn thing. It probably shows that he's sober. I think he's going to be a hell of a player in Canada. Absolutely.
I agree with, I know this is shocking because this doesn't usually happen. I agree with everything.
That just means that you're going to be right this time.
I agree with everything you just said, man. I'm not a Johnny Manziel fan.
No, I'm not either.
He's not.
But I could be someday. If he quit. Look.
I love the idea of Manziel going up there. Me and you have talked about this. I said the field is bigger. They throw the ball a lot.
Yes.
And they're going to spread things out a lot, which is going to open up a lot of lanes.
It's
a lot of things. It is made for this guy. Going up there, I'm with you. I don't know why.
He is going to be a star.
You keep trying. He would. I don't see the upside to keep trying to pound the square peg into the round hole with the NFL. I think the NFL has pretty much said, "Look, man, we don't want you. You just don't fit here."
Right.
I think this is a perfect fit, man.
If he can keep his head on straight and keep the off the field stuff straight, he's going to have a 8 to 10 year career.
Now, I did see where they had like 10 quarterbacks on that team. One of them was Jeremiah Masoli. You remember him?
I remember the name.
And they had another guy up there. I don't think Manziel really participated at all, but his coach pretty much just said, "Look, that's just because he doesn't know the terminology.
Right.
He's going to pick it up in a couple weeks. They're going to play this guy. They're going to sell a lot of tickets." 2 thumbs up to Johnny Manziel in Canada.
Agreed.
Man. Next up, Tim Tebow. You might have heard of him. I know you have.
I have.
He kind of torched you guys.
I recall
on
all
numerous
of those
occasions.
games.
He knows all of the Tebows. Tim Tebow will make his Major League debut
kept on giving.
for the New York Mets this season. I'll take this one first. I'm going to go thumbs up on this one too, man. He's hitting like 240 right now in Double-A ball, which is a jump from where he hit at low A and high A ball last year. He's finally starting to get into the swing of this. But the big reason why is because I don't think that the Mets are really going to be in this thing in September. There's not going to be a real reason to go up there and watch them. We're going to have to sell some tickets. And I think they just had an outfielder basically tear his toe away from his foot, and he's going to be out for the entire year.
Nobody say any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Juan Lagares? I think he
moving right along. Don't
ripped his toe clean off of his foot.
Stop.
Picked it up.
Stop.
And carried it around for the rest of the ball game. But I think Tebow's going to take a spot for the last month of the season. Tebow will be in the majors this year.
Thumbs up, man. Anybody who thought that this was another, no offense, man, Michael Jordan, it's not. This guy's a talented baseball player. He's not a great baseball player. He may not even be, in the long run, a good baseball player. But there are tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of guys in the league who have gotten there off less than he's done in the minors. So if you don't like Tim Tebow in the league, you obviously have some agenda that has nothing to do with baseball.
Well, look, like I said, he's
earned it.
He's hitting 240 in Double-A ball.
With good power.
He's
showing plenty of runs.
Some pop, man.
Yeah.
Give him a shot.
Absolutely.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Des Bryant will be on a team when training camp begins.
Thumbs up. I think Des is going to have. If he's not, it's his fault. If he's not, it's because people continue to make him offers that he turns down because he can't get straight on whatever his actual situation is with the NFL right now. I just can't picture him not being on a squad to start training camp.
To start training camp, that's the question. I'm going to say thumbs down. I'm going to say when training camp opens, Des Bryant will not be on a team. I think if he wanted to be on a team right now, he could. You hear that Green Bay is very interested. I think that'd be a good fit.
But he's coming. That's what I'm talking about, though. And again, this is just words, but he's already said, man, I got no interest in playing for Green Bay. Why is he even saying this stuff in public? He is his big problem right now, not the league.
I think he's trying to force his way into an NFC East team where basically the teams in the NFC East, they've basically said, I don't want you.
Right.
We don't want you here.
Right.
So, no.
The fact that the Redskins haven't jumped on this makes me think they're not going to. I'm telling you, man, I think something's going on in D.C. as far as who is. I think calmer heads are in charge right now. I don't think the trigger pullers are, because, man, me and you both were like, he's going to Washington.
That's what I said.
But I just don't see. I don't think it's going to happen.
But no, I don't think that he'll be on a team when training camp begins. Now, maybe somebody gets hurt. Maybe a couple weeks into the season, maybe he catches on somewhere. But to me, right there, the meter has not moved at all on Des Bryant. So I say no.
We may be the only people talking about it.
Maybe
it just kind of has dropped off the national conversation.
Lastly, do you believe Mitch Kupchak when he is saying that he doesn't expect to significantly alter the roster? Thumbs up or thumbs down? BG, I am going thumbs down on this one. I think the roster will be overhauled. I think they are going to move Kemba Walker at some point before the draft. I saw one trade scenario that had them sending, I think it was sending Kemba out to New York for, some ancillary pieces in that number 9 pick where you would get 9 and 11. I think there's a lot of moving around the Hornets are going to be able to do. I think Kupchak is the guy to do it. This team they're not going to go into next season with a brand new first-time head coach trotting the same old out there.
It's kind of getting boring today, but I don't see how anybody can disagree with you. It all sounds great. The guy's a player development guy, so he's never going to come out and just say, I'm getting rid of all these guys because I don't think I can develop them. But Kupchak didn't say he was keeping the team together. The coach did, and the coach isn't the one making those calls. He said, I have no intention. They're taking this team apart. They don't have a choice. Nothing else makes any sense.
I think they're good enough that they could take what they have and get in the playoffs. But, then today's NBA just getting into the playoffs is not good enough. That team is not going to look the same next year. All right, guys, that's it for this week. That's it for this Border War. You can follow us on Twitter at The Border War. You can follow BG at BG_Border War. I'm the TanMan at TanMan3264. You can email us at CarolinaBorderWar@gmail.com. Make sure you like us and download us through the Spreaker app. We're on YouTube. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook. Thank you guys every Monday. See you back here next week. Don't miss it.